Welcome to this next module of the email list building course. My name is Bob the teacher. I'm the marketing educator here at LeadPages, and I'm joined by the VP of Sales here, Hale.
Hey, how's it going?
And in this module, it's all about personalized lead nurturing. You know, if you're an enterprise, if you're a company as an agency that has a lot of one-on-one types of conversations with your leads, you're going to really enjoy this particular module because we want to walk you through what we do here at LeadPages and what Kyle's done in his past experiences that turns folks who've joined your list and turn them into a customer. So first off, Kyle, welcome. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
And tell me what gets you excited about lead nurturing and sales that gets you revved up every day.
Yeah, so a couple things. I think number one is just the fact that when lead nurturing is done well, it typically includes some type of content or educational component. And when you do that, you are teaching people. And I think anytime you teach people, you create both an intellectual connection and an emotional connection, which is really important in closing sales. Mm-hmm. So that, and then just the sheer size of the opportunity, because a very small percentage of people will buy from you the first time they're introduced to your brand. So the idea that you can take all of those people that maybe weren't quite ready to buy but kick the tires a little bit and continue a conversation with them is a really big opportunity when done well.
So this course is designed primarily around the idea of using online technologies to convert folks through list building, lead nurturing, and so forth. But sometimes the old school strategies of actually getting on the phone with people or responding back with an individual email are important. So talk to us a little bit about when you use email as a follow-up strategy versus phone calls.
Sure. So I think, number one is important to look at the tone of the message you received from the lead originally. If they came in from a form that they filled out, or just depending on what source they came from, if they provided any information that maybe expressed any urgency on the need for your product or did not, then you can decide how to follow up. But I think really the cool thing about the sales landscape right now is that there's so many amazing tools being created for sales teams right now, specifically in email marketing. So I have a tool now where I can put a lead into a sequence of emails that's still customized and comes from my actual inbox, and that will then tell me when that client's actually opening, or that prospect is opening that email. So I know exactly when they're opening that email, and that's when I hit them with a phone call. So with some of the tools now, you really can make better, not so much cold phone calls, but warm phone calls. Cold calling is kind of starting to go away, and with the advancements in email automation tools and notifications, you're really allowed to make more of a warm phone call versus a cold one. So they work together in tandem.
Awesome. So you answered this question a little bit already, but I'd like to dive into a little bit further. When you set up an appointment for one of these kinds of conversations, do you like to call the people, have them call your number, or do you call into a conference line?
Yep.
Because I know there's some psychology behind that relationship of how the phone call actually happens, even though it might be overlooked.
Yeah, so if I'm not doing a product demo, it's just like an initial, let's call it a discovery call, I really like to call the client's cell phone, especially if it's just one person. That way I have their cell phone, which is a more direct way to contact, and you want to make it easy for your clients to interact with you. So when you do a conference line, which is great for you doing demos or screen shares, but when you're just having that initial call, you want to make it easy. So dialing into a conference number and then adding a PIN is, it's a task. So in that scenario, I like to just reach out myself. If it's a group of people or we're doing a demo, then I definitely will use a join me or a GoToMeeting type of a scenario where they dial in.
So you're in the middle of these conversations, you're on the phone with them. Sometimes they're just like, all right, I'm ready to sign up, and others, there's a little bit more of a discovery discussion that needs to happen.
Yep.
What are some of the triggers that tell you they're ready for the sale versus you need to really follow up with them at a time, a few days or a week or so in the future?
Well, you don't ever want to leave it up to the prospect to kind of maybe tell you if they're ready or not. So it's a series of questions. So for me, the ultimate goal after a demo is to close somebody within a week. And so I've qualified them as a lead, I've done a demo, and then at the end of that demo, it's important that I confirm that, hey, do you really believe, as we've kind of proven here, that LeadPages can apply to your business, almost immediately and really help your business grow, build its list or grow revenue, whatever it is. So from that point, I want to say, who's left in the decision-making process? What does your timing look like? And are you guys ready for a proposal? And through that conversation, they're going to either answer those questions, and it's going to be clear that they're ready to go, or the way they answer those questions tells you they're not quite ready. So it's really on the salesperson or the person communicating with the lead to help move that process along.
Awesome. So you just mentioned that as a VP of Sales of LeadPages, doing this from a software platform. In your past life, you've been a major role player in the growth of Bite Squad, which is a restaurant delivery service, as well as CrowdCut, which was recently sold to end crowd. It's, at the time, it was the largest single market Groupon living social competitor, right?
Yep.
How would the types of companies you worked with in the past in those environments adjust what you just gave as advice, if any different?
Yeah, so your audience is always different depending on your product. So when you're talking to restaurant owners with Bite Squad, let's say, they want to increase revenues and they want to do it without having to do a whole lot of work. So in that instance, it's as simple as, there's no sign-up fee for Bite Squad. There's a percentage of revenues taken from monies generated from the partnership. So there's really no risk to get them going. So you really want to push them into just trying, because the worst thing that's going to happen is maybe they're unhappy with the volume of orders that they get, which also is kind of unlikely because Bite Squad's built such a great brand. So you just got to tailor your pitch or your closing procedures to your audience and figure out kind of where their pain points are, and that will tell you how quickly you can move the sale along.
Got it. And when somebody tells you no, let's start talking about objections a little bit. What are some of the most common objections that you hear on a regular basis? And then let's dive into each one as we go. But what are some of the main objections you hear?
Yeah, so let's just get the big one out there is always budget, right? And really the way to address that is through the sales process, you're asking questions that help kind of uncover the opportunity loss that a prospect might be incurring by not using your solution. So for us at LeadPages, I want to know, how are you currently creating landing pages? Is it done internally? Is it outsourced? How many people have to touch that process? And then figuring out a cost associated to that process. Once you surface all of that information, it really helps you coming down to negotiations and understanding what their opportunity cost is for not using our solution. So, and I think that holds true with anything you're selling, is your solution is supposed to solve a pain point or a gap in something that they're currently missing, and you want to tie that into your budget, or to their budget, into your sell price.
Fantastic. So what would you say is the number 2 objection that you have, and how do we handle it?
Yeah, for us it's, hey, we use our web page to convert leads, or we use another solution or something of that nature. And handling that objection really comes down to understanding, what kind of campaigns are you running. If you're running a specific campaign that has a specific message, a specific sign-up process, sending somebody to your homepage or your web page typically doesn't involve then that message continuing to be consistent with the original campaign message. So from there, it's understanding what their campaign landscape looks like, and then explaining how having more direct messaging and consistent messaging throughout with an easily creatable landing page will increase their conversions, and they can do it without needing a development team or coding involved. So
okay, cool. So for people who aren't doing landing page software development as their product of sale, what you're speaking to is like knowing what the other alternatives are, and then knowing how you can position yours as just a better solution, or as an alternative solution to at least check out.
Yep, absolutely. So I think too, you start to build a path of common objections or common assumptions, and you really start to build a story on how to handle those. So I think it's knowing your business or your client's business through your lens. So in our case, knowing their business as far as it's related to conversion and landing pages, and being able to kind of unearth any concerns they might have about moving forward with a product like ours. Okay,
cool. Any other objections that typically come up that you have some tips for us about?
Those are really the 2 main ones: budget, and then the second one is, we have some type of other solution that we're currently using. So, also understanding like competitive landscape as well. If they're using a competitor of yours, understanding that competitor's strengths or weakness as it relates to you, and how you might be able to come in and provide a better solution.
Okay. So you do a lot of sales calls, I'm sure, on a regular basis. I've been on some of those calls myself. What's your favorite question that you like to ask that helps you understand that they're ready or they're not ready or whatever? I know that you have developed some creativity around this, and I'd love to know what you like to ask.
So for me, sales, it's really important for sales follow-up questions to be extremely direct. If you ask an open-ended question, it almost encourages stall tactics from a prospect. So I'll usually go back to something we agreed upon as far as where they were at in the decision-making process on our last call. So versus saying something like, hey, where are you guys at in your decision-making process? That's really open-ended. It doesn't really command a yes or a no. So I would say, I would ask something more like, hey, Tim, last week we agreed that your internal conversations regarding LeadPages would probably head to a final decision by today. So are you guys ready to move forward with LeadPages and allow us to help you improve your business? And that really is a yes or no, kind of answer. So that's probably my favorite follow-up question, is something that's very direct and speaks to where are you at right now, yes or no.
Cool. And I love how you incorporated what their chief benefit is, what the goal is with your solution. So it's not just, are you ready to get started? It's, are you ready to get started with us so that we can do X, Y, and Z together?
Yep, absolutely. And you can apply that to any business. If you're selling fitness memberships, it's, are you ready to join the club today and start changing your life and working towards your fitness goals? If you're selling to a restaurant, it's, are you ready to get started today and increase your revenues, with minimal work? So it's all about kind of going back to that value prop and what people are trying to get at.
Right, and I love that you tied it back to what you originally discovered during your first series of emails or the first couple calls you might have had, but it's putting into the prospect's benefit wheelhouse instead of always being your own.
Yep.
I've seen way too many sales calls happen where people just always have their go-to line. Are you ready to get started so that you can X? And they've never said that's what they really want, but that's what they're used to saying on the sales call.
Yep, absolutely. It continues to make that emotional connection, and it also builds a story from mentioning something you agreed upon in an earlier call, where you're at right now, and then it also ties in the future. It's like past, present, and future in a question format that gets you a yes or no answer.
Cool. So in addition to the phone calls, you're also responding to people via email. We recently had a customer or a prospect that was sort of, went silent for a little bit or went dark. What's your favorite subject lines to get people's attention again, so that you can either get them back on the phone or get them to make a decision?
Sure. So I like to call that people that go crickets, right? Tumbleweeds, crickets, they've just fallen off the face. You were so confident they were ready, and then they just go silent. So when people go crickets on me, I like to kind of like trigger back into all my conversations. Is there any connection we made that was more of like an emotional connection or a fun connection? Because by now they've probably either not opened or ignored some of my emails that I've sent, and so I like to see like where can I interject some fun. So recently I had a client. It was an agency that went quiet, and I remember that we were talking about Titanic, the movie Titanic, in our first sales meeting that we had. So in the email subject I said, Christine, you jump, I jump. Of course, is what Jack says to Rose during the movie. So. And I noticed that in my email tracker that she'd opened the email within like 30 seconds, responded within about 2 minutes, and then 2 days later we had a closed sale. So I think you can interject creativity when you're kind of doing the same thing and it's not getting you a result. I wouldn't encourage that so much for a first email subject, but when people go crickets on you, it's time to have a little bit of fun.
Right. Awesome. And one of the things I love about that is you never take take it personally that they haven't responded, right? You're just assuming that life has happened, something came up, and it's not, they just told me no, and then you're going to ignore. You're very direct, while also being fun at the same time. Yeah,
and in the body of that email, I would say something like, hey Christine, last time we spoke, you guys had articulated that you were really ready to move forward and feeling confident about us as a solution. I just want to check in if something has changed. That way I can pivot my follow-up so to not over-communicate with you. And it kind of puts the ball in their court, and they're like, okay, yeah, I did tell them that we were pretty much ready, and now he's reaching out, having a little bit of fun with me, but also trying to get to the heart of the issue. So I think it involves a little bit of fun, a little bit of history, and advances the sale or not at that point.
Fantastic. So I'm done with my prepared questions. Are there any questions that I should have asked you that I did not, or any tips that you'd like to share before we wrap up this module?
Yeah, sure. I think people that are doing sales and doing a lot of outbound always want to know what tools other people are using. So a tool that I've started using is called Sales Loft, and it helps you cold email prospects. So it's a LinkedIn plugin, and it allows you to build lists out of LinkedIn. So I can do an advanced search for marketing agencies in the Twin Cities, and even target a title within those companies. And then it'll help me export those leads actually into a list that I can then put into an outbound email sequence. Versus having them manually do it. So I suggest Sales Loft for a cold prospecting tool. It also allows you to email people outbound too.
Cool. And you mentioned a little bit about email tracking of knowing when people have opened or responded and so forth. Is that the same tool?
Yep. So they have, within Sales Loft, there's Prospector, which is the LinkedIn component, and then there's Cadence. And Cadence allows you to email people, and it gives you notifications not only when they open your email, right when they open it, and this is so amazing for targeting people, especially if they're opening up your proposal. You can get them on the phone right then, or if they're just opening up a follow-up email, it's a good time to target them. It also will tell you if they've clicked on any links within your email. So if I put a video in there or an article, I can know that they're vested and they're probably going to be sitting there for a minute or so and they're wanting to learn more about us.
Fantastic. Well, Kyle, thanks so much for helping our audience today with the tips as your role here as a VP of Sales.
You bet.
And now it's your turn to take some action. If you're the kind of leader in your company that relies on outbound sales, inbound sales, and communicating with people directly, take what Kyle has shared with you and take action on it, put it into your business. And of course, if you'd like to help yourself out a little bit faster, join us here at LeadPages. Go to www.leadpages.net and /next step. in order to join in as one of our new customers and be able to use some of the heavy lifting of marketing off of your shoulders by letting us do your landing pages and so forth. And Kyle, if we have anybody watching right now who is an agency, they have a larger group of people that they want to use LeadPages for, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so they can call me directly for one at 612-910-4256, or they can go to our pricing page and fill out our corporate inquiry, and that'll come right into me, and I'll follow up with you via phone or email.
Fantastic. We can get you a nice deal on a bigger package of services and various things that might scale up with your business at the size you're at. All right, that's it for now. We'll see you in the next module of the email list building course.